Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zheng. Recently, a Texas bill that aims to restrict land sales to citizens from China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran caused a lot of attention. At the Senate hearing on March 2nd, an unusually large crowd showed up. More than 140 people testified. Most of them were against the bill, and only a few supported it. And before the hearing, one Chinese American who publicly supported the bill even received threats of physical attacks. So, what is this bill about, and who is behind the big crowd that overwhelmed that hearing? I was lucky enough to be able to interview two brave Chinese Americans who testified in that hearing despite all the threats and attacks. So today I will present to you a story about how deep the CCP's infiltration and silent invasion is.
National security at the heart and soul of it. It is about food protection, it is about mineral protection, and it is about making sure that we do not have what we saw in North Dakota with a corn mill factory being proposed right there, next to one of our military bases. Listen, Texas is a key to our military security. And not all of them are military bases, because we know what happens in Amarillo as well.
That was Senator Lois Coyhost speaking at the hearing about the bill she proposed. The bill is called SB 147. And this is the full text of it. You can see that it stipulates that a government entity of China, Iran, North Korea, or Russia, a company or other entity that is headquartered in those four countries, or is directly or indirectly held or controlled by the government of the four countries, etc., as well as citizens of the four countries, may not purchase or otherwise acquire title to real property in Texas. Ever since the bill was proposed in November last year, there have been a lot of so-called controversies. Most of the time, you can see Asian faces among the protesters. The fight became so intense that before the Senate hearing on March 2nd, one of the Chinese Americans who supported the bill received a personal threat, which could border on the line of threats of terrorism. This is a WeChat post that was sent to a group called AALC against Texas SB 147 that has 498 members in it. AALC represents an organization called Asian Americans Leadership Council, founded by an individual called Luo Lin. We will talk about this organization and its founder later. Now let's go back to the WeChat post. You can read the English translation on the left side. My own translation would be like this. There may be people like Xie Bin who don't know what's going on. If there's a channel, we can patiently explain and persuade the rest of the stubborn ones, if they really come to the scene or the hearing to make trouble, then take photos and record who they are. Whoever has a spare baseball bat can make them into a toothhead club by adding some iron nails to it. Then put it in the trunk of your car. If it is not convenient to beat him up inside the Senate chamber, do it outside. Even if we still can't do it outside, do a human flesh search or a cyber manhunt for him and find out where Xie Bin and people like him live. This is a tutorial of how to make a spiked clap. You can see a YouTube link there. I've searched for it. It does exist. Let me share it. See, this is one frame of that tutorial video. Now let's go back to the WeChat post. So the post continued to say, practice how to use it after you make it. You need to move fast, accurately, and ruthlessly. Don't beat him too slightly, but don't beat him too harshly as well, so that we don't end his, there's an F word, life. It is just right to beat him half to death. Give him a chance to learn a lesson and start anew. Beat him up wherever there is a problem. If his brain isn't working properly, just smash on his F word again, head, regardless of whether he can be cured or not. So that's the content of that WeChat post. From whichever angle, it is a criminal and a terrorist threat, right? That is why after I tweeted it, Kyle Bass, an American inventor and founder of Conservation Equity Management, a Texas-based private equity firm, posted such a reply. Jennifer, can you please put me into touch with Xie Bin? This crime can now be investigated by the Texas Rangers and the FBI's Organized Crime Unit. Well, it turned out this kind of threat didn't stop Xie Bin, a Chinese-American living in Texas, from attending the hearing to support the bill. This is a picture of him testifying in the hearing. When I asked him in a telephone interview about his thoughts regarding the threat he received, he said he had reported the case to the FBI, but because U.S. doesn't have jurisdiction over WeChat, which is the CCP's software, it could be very hard for the FBI to find out who posted the threat or to do anything about it.
And we don't know who this guy is. We don't know where he lives. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, WeChat is under jurisdiction of CCP.
Yes.
The U.S. is only from China, especially Shenzhen, China, because I did the trace of the WeChat communications. It went straight to the Shenzhen, China. Mm-hmm. And the U.S. government has no access to it. Even you have a court order or something, they will say, well, go to China.
When I asked him whether the U.S. government should consider banning WeChat like what it is doing to TikTok, Xie Bin said,
fully agree. I think that WeChat is 10 times worse than TikTok.
The biggest reason some people used to oppose the bill is that it creates discrimination against hardworking Chinese in America. For this, Xie Bin has a different understanding.
What they describe is me. Mm-hmm. I'm a hardworking American. I'm a hardworking Texas resident. I have already worked so hard ever since I came to this country. When I came here, I had enough $200 in my pocket and 2 big suitcases. That's all.
Will you be affected by the bill if you want to buy a property?
No. Mm-hmm. No.
Xie Bin said, as a matter of fact, this bill will not affect land purchases by the vast majority of Chinese in the U.S. Only Chinese citizens in the U.S. with ties to the CCP and the CCP itself will be affected. Another Chinese American who testified in the hearing in support of this bill is Bob Fu, the founder and president of China Aid Association.
We have everyone, I think, in this room have acknowledged the Communist Party has become our #1 existential threat to our way of life, to our freedom, by committing these transnational threats everywhere in our American soil. We cannot allow the CCP to float with their surveillance technology, with the spy balloon flying, hovering over nation, while we allow their building their own base, a land base, everywhere in the United States of American soil. So for me, myself, you wouldn't believe, back to 2020, my family, with the 3 children born in the United States, were being escorted out from West Texas every day from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock for 3 months because of the CCP organized harassers in the name of protest in front of our house every day for 3 months. The federal FBI and the local law enforcement in Midland, Texas, had to escort my family and put us in hiding places from DC to the Texas. For 3 months, we were exiled from our own homes since September 2020 all the way to November 2020. So we cannot allow the CCP to have a stronghold with land purchased freely, representing their repressive regime, to have a free hand, to surveillance us, to threaten us, and even today, we know for sure. So, some came here, even publicized the violence threats against those of us who support this bill. We can have a polite, a civilized debate as we are here. Those are my fellow Chinese. You're not our enemies. But it's really, our enemy is the Chinese Communist Party. It's time to pass this bill without reservation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your testimony.
In the next video, we can see some of the footage about how Bob Fu's family was harassed back in 2020.
From 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. every day, sometimes as many 100 masked Chinese shouting the slogan for killing Bob Fu and take him down, and basically every day. And so the FBI and local law enforcement and even our mayor had to collectively, I still remember that day, and escorted my whole family and took our youngest daughter from her high school classroom, escorted her out, and we were all escorted out our backyard. We couldn't even go through our front door because the CCP agents were threatening and occupying.
This kind of harassment brought great mental pressure to his entire family.
I'm a human being, even though a man of faith as a Christian pastor. If you tell me it's not scary, that is not real. So my wife has to hold her guns. Basically behind the curtain of the window of our living room, because we have our young children at home and teenager, or in the high school. So that was not a very a safe situation. So for the whole night, several nights, she could not sleep at all.
Unfortunately, there weren't many other Chinese Americans who went to the hearing to support. Xie Bin said some who supported the bill were intimidated by the threat. On the contrary, the hearing was flooded by those who went there to oppose the bill. And later, the CCP's mouthpiece Phoenix TV's website published an article to declare victory. Let me share the article. So the title of this article is "Over 100 Chinese flocked to Texas Capitol to overwhelmingly oppose to proposals targeting Asian." You can see they posted a lot of photos of the hearing, showing that there were indeed a lot of Chinese who showed up. The article says about 140 people testified on the floor, and about 130 of them opposed both proposals, and about 120 of them were Chinese opponents. It can be said that today is a historic milestone for Chinese political participation in Texas. The so at the end, you can see the post group photos of those who attended the hearing. The so-called English mainstream media also reported about this issue with the same kind of narrative, such as this one, which says a bill that aims to restrict Texas land sales to citizens from China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran drew a crowd to the Capitol on Thursday. Most of the people who testified at Thursday's hearing spoke in opposition to the bill. Similar concerns have sparked rallies at the Capitol and criticism of Ho's bill. The senator said she listened to those concerns, and at Thursday's hearing, she filed a committee substitute changing the bill to allow home purchases. This report from NBC features the banner of the Asian Americans Leadership Council and a protest against the bill, saying that Texas bill will no longer aim to ban Chinese citizens from buying homes. The problem is, were all these oppositions and protests organic, or were they artificially manufactured by somebody? Let's hear how Bob Fu explained this issue to me when I interviewed him yesterday. So were you surprised that so many people and Chinese specifically appeared in that hearing? And obviously those who oppose this bill are overwhelmed or outnumbered those who support the bill a lot. And have you ever seen a similar kind of situation? And if not, what do you think is behind the great mobile or mobilization ability of so many people appearing on the hearing that day?
Yeah, Jennifer, obviously and clearly, this is the campaign against the bill was pre-organized very methodically. It was a Thursday morning. Most people would have been working in their different jobs, but all of a sudden we can notice over some 100 Chinese occupied both the upper room, the chamber, and also the hearing room. I mean, they registered quite a number of them. And reading the statement, actually, we already know on their WeChat propaganda preparation group that they have been training. I mean, they means clearly the Chinese Communist Party and its agents have been backing this up, preparing them to send their propaganda and deceptive message. By trying to mislead the public by claiming, oh, this is Asian hatred, Asian hate or Chinese hate, racist, nationalistic aimed bill.
The Chinese article by Phoenix TV also mentioned that if legislators do not support putting the proposal on the Senate floor agenda, then the bill is dead in the water. So this hearing, we have gained important lessons and have seen what is possible with the islands. The article stressed the importance of continuing with the fight against other bills such as SB 552, SB 711, HB 1075, and HB 2788, which are all called anti-Chinese by the article. Bob Fu said these people were not only mobilized by the CCP, but were also trained.
But the Chinese regime, of course, was also prepared to counter the passage or even discussion about the SB 147. So through their agents, through their disinformation, misinformation, propaganda campaign, they also mobilize some of those Chinese from different communities in Texas. Unfortunately, Mao Amebic stormed the Texas Capitol. With obviously CCP trained propaganda tactics, filing their reservation against the bill.
Now let's check a little bit into the background information of the main force behind the protests. This is a Twitter account of the Asian Americans Leadership Council. You can see the pinned tweet is exactly about the hearing, about how March 2nd is a historic day for all Asian Americans in Texas. You can also see that the Asian Americans Leadership Council was founded by Luo Lin. This is Luo Lin's Twitter account. You can see the pinned tweet is one about her being invited by US President Biden to the Lunar New Year event first ever hosted at the White House. The second tweet is also about the Senate hearing. Now, let's look at this report. Do you know who this Chinese guy in the photo is? If you don't, you will surely know him in the future, as he is the new CCP Foreign Minister Qin Gang. The report was posted on June the 3rd last year, and its title is Ambassador Qin Gang attended the Dragon Boat Festival dinner in Houston and delivered a speech. At that time, Qin Gang was the CCP's ambassador to the US. Now, look at this photo posted in that report. It is a picture of Luo Lin and Qin Gang. The photo caption says, on behalf of US Congresswoman Sina Jackson Lee, Luo Lin hands a congratulatory letter to Ambassador Qin Gang. This is another photo from the same report showing Qin Gang taking a picture with some VIPs at the event. You can see there was only one person between Luo Lin and Qin Gang. In other words, Luo Lin was positioned at an important spot. If you search Luo Lin's Chinese name on Baidu, the Chinese search engine, you get a lot of reports. See her photo with Hillary Clinton at the bottom left. She was portrayed by Chinese media as an outstanding Chinese. This is a report from the Sichuan Province government website. The title of the report is Huang Xiaoxiang met with President of the U.S.-China Relations Foundation Luo Lin and her delegation. Huang Xiaoxiang was the vice governor of Sichuan province who hosted a visit from Luo Lin and introduced her to the 11th West Expo, and they talked about cooperation in energy and environmental protection. This is a screenshot of a TV report about the meeting, showing Luo Lin being received by Huang Xiaoxiang. Strangely enough, the TV title calls Luo Lin a U.S. federal representative. When I searched the TV report title on Baidu, I got this report. However, when I clicked on the title, I found the video was already deleted. But those few reports gave us a very good idea of who Luo Lin is. Not anybody can get that close to an important CCP guy like Qin Gang. He is now the top diplomat of the CCP. Now let's check a little bit into the background of Jing Wu, a Texas state representative, who is also another main figure behind the opposition of SB 147. Look at the report again. The first person on the left holding a banner is Jing Wu. Texas Scorecard has done an in-depth investigative report about Jing Wu and found multiple suspicious connections between him and the CCP. He was found to have deep ties with the CCP's consulate in Houston, which was closed by the Trump administration in July 2020 due to espionage concern. Jing Wu also boasted about himself welcoming the CCP's Vice Premier Liu Yandong to Texas in a speech at the Asia Society. You know, Liu Yandong was also the head of the CCP's United Front Work Department, which specializes in recruiting spies and overseas agents to do influence and infiltration job for the CCP. There's a lot of other evidence listed in the Texas Scorecard article that you can look into for yourself. The article concludes all of these incidents, connections, and comments raise concerns about Representative Wu and his proximity to state and local power. So from all the evidence I presented today, we can see that the CCP's war against the US has long since started, and on the very soil of America. The fact that so many CCP mobilized Chinese people appeared at that hearing itself speaks of how serious the CCP's infiltration already is. It could even influence and change US law.
And in a sense, the hearing and the response by the CCP itself is a testament that that's why this SB 147 needs to be passed. And the penetrating the transnational repressive effort of the CCP has been already too much, too broad. Maybe it's too late for law enforcement to control. So I'm very concerning and deeply really worrying the future of our republic, our freedom. I mean, I said, you know, for the sake of our freedom and the freedom of our children, our children's children, and let us prevent America, the United States of America, from becoming another CCP-controlled China. God forbid. You know, we should do everything we can and to prevent that from happening and to expose the CCP's penetration, transnational repressive efforts, such like this, and to take all the measures possible to protect our way of life, the freedom that we cherish.
And what if the CCP's attempt succeeds? According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture 2021 report, the CCP already owns a rough estimate of 384,000 acres of U.S. farmland, roughly the size of 2 New York cities, in 366 lots held by 146 investors. Forbes once reported that a secretive Chinese billionaire bought 140,000 acres of land in Texas. What's more concerning is that the CCP was building a massive power farm near a U.S. Air Force base in Texas with land bought by that secretive Chinese billionaire. The power farm could be used to spy on or otherwise interfere in U.S. flight training. The wind power project has also raised concern that power supply to the Air Force base could be vulnerable to hostile actors.
Allow the CCP to freely purchase land with its ownership. I mean, essentially, the Communist Party does not need one bullet or one missile before they can colonize the whole America. If we allow them to just purchase the land one piece after another, from California to Florida, from Nebraska to Maine, from Texas, of course, to Tennessee. So we have seen the CCP has already taken such measures by using their agents, occupied our airwaves. And Jennifer, you are a media person, a journalist. So you see how often, how crowded our airwaves in the United States of America by the CCP's misinformation propaganda. Every morning when you open the Washington Post newspaper in a hotel in Washington, D.C., you will find CCP's mouthpiece, China Daily, as an insert and pretend to be news. But total fake news and propaganda in the American public.
Bob Fu told me that the Texas Senate will vote on SB 147 as soon as tomorrow. Will the bill pass? Hopefully it will. Well, that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like my content, please help me spread my videos and get more subscribers. Please also consider going to my website at jenniferzengblog.com, jenniferzengblog.com, signing up for a membership or making a donation to support my truth-telling efforts. After you become a member, you can read my scripts to save time if you don't have time to watch the videos. I always put all the links to the sources I use in my shows so that you can do your own further research. Thank you. See you next time.